Are you having a hard time getting your weekdays booked? I can fix that. This short-term rental pricing strategy video is going to give you a new approach on how to look at all 7 days of your daily calendar and their prices by changing the shape of your weekly calendar. This approach is extremely outlandish but very effective to help you understand all 7 days, their relationship with each other, and especially their relationship with your most popular days and why your weekdays aren't getting booked. I call this the heptagram approach, and yes, I made it up. Let's use it. Let's go. Welcome back, YouTube world. You're going to be particularly excited because I created this technique to better teach how to do pricing for VRBO specifically, but it super squarely applies to all channels because no matter if you're selling on VRBO, Airbnb, Booking.com, Marriott Homes and Villas, you're still selling a Tuesday, you're still selling a Thursday, you're still selling a Sunday. So let's pull up a heptagram and let me teach you how to use this to better model out your prices and their relationships. This is going to go over the value of each of your individual days, plus a heat map style approach to what your most popular days are and a way to look at that. Plus, it's going to talk about minimum length of stay and a strategic relationship between your good and bad days. By the end of this video, you will absolutely be changing your minimum length of stay to something more appropriate strategically for you. Have you seen the coincidence yet? A heptagram has 7 points, and all points on this 7-sided shape represent a day of the week. Your most popular days are probably Friday and Saturday. If you take a look at the data inside of Wheelhouse, when they raise your prices based on demand, you normally see this scoop shape. And 4 years ago, when I started teaching pricing strategy at a high level and started taking on students, I called this the scoop strategy by showing basically the same visualization. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday get lower, Thursday gets higher, Friday gets even higher, and sometimes Saturday is more expensive than Friday. It creates a scoop shape. But when we use the heptagram, it helps us visualize multi-day stays in a way unimaginable. You know why? Let's draw a circle around the heptagram. This shows the fluidity of the week-to-week calendar. See, Sunday starts a new week, Saturday ends the week, but somebody could book on a Friday and check out on a Monday. So they started one week and ended the next, right? So the circle helps create that fluid relationship back and forward with all 7 days. The other thing that's really cool about a heptagram like this is it shows you what the polar opposite day of the week is to your most popular days. Have you noticed yet that your hardest to book day is the exact opposite of your easiest to book days? In this case, if Friday and Saturday are your easiest to book days, Sundays and Thursdays are probably kind of easy to book too. Then Mondays and Wednesdays start to get difficult, and Tuesday could be the hardest day of the week to have a reservation on. The reason why is it is the farthest from your Friday and Saturday, which means that in order for Tuesday to be included in a booking that includes your most popular days, you would have to have a longer length of stay. The minimum length of stay that you could have including a Saturday would be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, checking out on a Wednesday. So you'd have to have a 4-day stay to book both Saturday and Tuesday. Same thing for Friday. Check on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, checking out on Saturday. And yes, you can use this in a very powerful way to model out your pricing. Let's start looking at Airbnb and the problem with the way that they set up their pricing, and then talk about how VRBO's got a much better, more granular approach to this, and why the heptagram is so important for VRBO. Airbnb gives you 2 settings. They give you your base rate, and they give you the option to raise your price on the weekends, and that is it. It is ignoring the fact that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all 5 being weekdays, could use a different price. Friday and Saturday aren't the only days that should use a different price. But Airbnb is too deeply ingrained into their current settings that they do not want to change this because it might break some other stuff. I don't know what it would break, but it might break some other stuff. When you go to VRBO, what they do is they give you an opportunity in your calendar to set a Saturday price, but also a Friday price and a Tuesday price. And every single week, those prices will always be what you said they are. So every Tuesday could be $120, but every Monday could be $130. Every Friday can be $160. Every Saturday could be $165. This allows you to get super granular. So how does the heptagram help guide us on what prices we should list our days for? Well, if your most popular days are Friday and Saturday, they're gonna have a certain price. And you could have Friday, Saturday the same price for this example, because on Airbnb you probably are anyway. So let's say that you use a 5-day minimum stay to try to get your Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays booked. What's gonna happen is you're gonna get 2 days booked at $200 each, the weekends. You're gonna have 3 days booked at $150 each. This is gonna give you a total of $850 for 5 days. But sometimes your 5 days don't get booked because of a demand issue, right? You don't have enough customers and they just decide not to book your place. So what you change is you change your minimum night stay. You bring it down to 3 days and then eventually down to 2. So what'll happen is you'll get 2 weekend days at 200 and then 1 weekday at 150, or you'll just get the 2 days at 200 each. Or you don't get any bookings at all because you missed your window at the prices you have, and even though you shorted your minimums, you should have lowered your prices to meet the market. And so now you've got nothing. So instead of having a 5-day minimum, you could look at this heptagram as a way to try to properly price all length of stays for perfect pricing. Let's say you wanted to give the best deal for a 5-day stay. What you could do is you could use this heptagram to perfectly model out all of your best prices for any length of stay. Let's, in this example, say that you use a 2-day minimum. And I'm going to teach you why I'm using 2 days as an example at the end of this video, so stick around. Let's say you're using a 2-day minimum. Well, if somebody wants to book your Friday and Saturday, you can make that more expensive, right? Because you might end up lowering your prices. This is another thing about dynamic pricing, is we're not going to change your minimum length of stay, we're going to change your prices. So let's start with Friday, Saturday. Let's raise those up, right? Let's raise those instead of $200, let's do $250, say, instead. Now, if somebody books for 2 days, they're paying $500. Eventually, you might decide to lower those and allow people to book for $200, but right now, instead of having a 5-day minimum, we're just going to inflate our 2-day rate. Now, normally a 3-day stay would have been $550, right? You have 2 days for $200 and 1 day at $150. Right now, you could collect $500 just for 2 days. We're not going to give away 3 days at $550. We're going to actually collect a little bit more. Our goal is to still hit roughly that $850 number for 5 days. Just a little teaser on what we're trying to accomplish here. So we're at $500 on a 2-day stay already. So let's make Thursdays and Sundays $120 each instead of $150. Well, that gets you to $740. And now let's make your other 3 days $110, right? So now you've got 2 days at $110 each, Tuesday, Wednesday, which is $220. Now you've got another day at $120, which is going to give you $240, plus another 2 days at $200 each, that's $840. Now, if you wanted to change this and make this slightly more aggressive, to get almost the same amount of money, you can make the weekends $250. You can make Thursday and Sunday, which are adjacent days, you can bring those down to say $140 instead of $120. You can have your Monday and Wednesday at $110, and you can have your Tuesday at $100. Now, by doing that, you've got $100 plus $110 plus $140, which is $350 for the 3 weekdays, and then $500 for the weekends, getting you to the $850 that we originally wanted. You now, instead of having $150 per night on the weekdays like you did from the beginning, where Tuesday, Wednesday would be $300, Tuesday, Wednesday is now only $210, and Wednesday, Thursday is now $250. Right? But Thursday, Friday is actually going to collect you more than it would have normally, because Thursday's $140, which is only $10 cheaper than normal, but Friday's $50 more. So now Thursday, Friday, you're collecting $40 more than normal. Friday, Saturday, you're collecting $100 more than normal. Saturday, Sunday, you're collecting $40 more than normal. All these days that don't touch your weekends, like your Tuesday, Wednesday bookings, your Monday, Tuesday, your Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, they're all going to be a little bit cheaper. Depending on the size of your property, when you drop prices would change. Bigger properties, you're going to start dropping your prices farther in the future. We just did a video on that. Smaller properties, you'll drop your prices more last minute. Now, this example wasn't priced perfectly. You should be hunting for prices based on the truth of how you would actually get booked. If you want to find out what your competition is charging on the weekends, just go onto Airbnb and do this, what's called an inflexible search. Okay, search for any weekend and then search for the next 6 months, every weekend for the next 6 months. This is going to give you a bonus. This is going to show you your best competition. And what's cool about your best competition is those are the ones getting booked. Look at some listings that have a lot of reviews, but also look, there's dates available. Choose one of the listings that's not available this weekend or next weekend if you can. Try to pick a listing that's not available for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks. That means that they've been getting bookings and they have bookings in the near future. Open their calendar and then go check what their weekend rates are and see if they change those and see what they're getting booked for. You're going to find that your competitors that are getting booked for 2 days, just Friday and Saturday, have a certain price. Now, since you don't want to get booked for just 2 days, you should charge more than they do just for those 2 days. But you're going to look at their weekday prices. What are they charging on the weekdays? Let's say one of your most successful competitors in your bracket, like one that you could keep up with if you did a good job. Let's say their weekend rates are $400 a night and their weekday rates are $300. You notice that they're getting a lot of weekend bookings, but no weekday bookings. You're seeing where they failed because they're not using this type of visualization approach to their weekday prices. So what you do, instead of doing $400, if you're a house, you do like $480 or $500. Right now, your weekends are priced 20% more than theirs. You could even go even higher to like say $520. But then instead of $300 on the weekends, you drop those Thursdays and those Sundays, which are adjacent, drop those down to $220 instead of $300. And then drop the Monday, Wednesdays down to $170. And then drop that Tuesday down to $140, something like that. And now the coldest day on your calendar, if Friday and Saturday are your best 2 days, the coldest day on your calendar is the cheapest day on your calendar. And the ones closer and closer to Friday, Saturday are priced more correctly for potential 2-day, 3-day, 4-day, 5-day stays. This is perfect for VRBO. If you guys want to do something really cool, you can use it on VRBO. Until I came up with this visualization, I was just throwing darts at the wall with VRBO, because on Airbnb, since we have these 5 equal days of the week and then 2 weekends, we've been using a lot of 3-day discounts, 4-day discounts, 5-day discounts. But what's cool is if you sign up for Wheelhouse, you can actually update your Airbnb prices to be perfectly scooped like your VRBO calendar. And then as you adjust your prices up and down, you could do it in a more appropriate way, and you don't have to rely on heavy 3 or 4-day discounts if that's not the way that you want to do your pricing. This can give you a more perfect pricing model, is what I'm trying to say. And now here's the secret to why we want to do that 2-night stay. Remember how we just searched any weekend, right? You see how we just did that? We searched for any 2-day stay, Friday and Saturday, into the upcoming future. If you want to show up in more searches, which is great for SEO, you show up in search and somebody clicks on you, you want to be available for any Friday and Saturday, make a 2-day minimum your restriction on Airbnb. And that way, when somebody does this I'm lazy search, I want to search for any weekend, you'll still show up in search, because if you have a 3-day minimum, which one of my students, that was actually one of his problems with his SEO, we just talked about it this morning. If you have a 3-day minimum on your weekends, you get knocked out of that search. That open search where they're looking for anything, you don't show up, which means you get less views. Airbnb thinks you're less interesting because Airbnb's algorithm is still an interest algorithm. And now you spiral down in the algorithm. If you want to really learn about the algorithm, I did a webinar called Re-Algorithm. The reason why it's called Re-Algorithm is in November, Airbnb did a winter release and they overhauled everything. Hosts all over the world started to see their listings just dwindle to nothing. Their calendars went empty. It was because Airbnb reprioritized their algorithm and how listings behave online. This is super important for you to understand. Your listing may do good sometimes because Airbnb tracks the things that matter that you do well, and then your listing could do bad sometimes because Airbnb changes what they care about in the algorithm and you're no longer meeting the metrics that they care about. And you need to know how the algorithm works, so that way if you ever fall out of grace with the algorithm, you can find out what it was and you can make the changes that you need to make. So I'm gonna put a link here so that way you can get Re-Algorithm and learn one of the most important topics to maintaining your listing for a long time. And for those of you who wonder which pricing software I like the most, I really do like Wheelhouse the most because they get very granular with their features. They let you change prices by the day. They let you do gap discounts. They let you choose how dramatic your weekend rate increases are going to be and how dramatic your supply and demand adjustments are going to be. But they also created a feature that is super important to our style of pricing strategy. When you blend pricing strategy and SEO, you get something called adjacency logic. I explained this to Wheelhouse on a call once. And what they did is they went and they built an adjacency logic engine, so that way if you guys get a booking, the days immediately next to that booking will get adjusted to the right price based on the fact that that one booking does affect the performance of neighboring days. Adjacency logic. And there's 2 reasons why we're pushing into pricing strategy more in some videos. It's coming into peak season for people. And a lot of people only care about pricing strategy when they're not getting any bookings. And that's a bad way to look at this. You can increase your revenues by perfectly pricing your weekdays in relationship to your weekends. Sure, you can make a ton of money on your weekends, but at the cost of not getting any weekday bookings, you're going to regret that. Because if you get 26 or 27 days booked on your calendar, you will absolutely make more money than if you only get 9 days booked. You can get all of them booked, you will make more money. You can tell your guru to fight me. I believe that that's true. And also, I'm about to launch a mastermind for 7-figure earners, people who make 7 figures on Airbnb. And in order for me to teach that level of student who has lots of properties, we have to start teaching how to price on VRBO, how to manage a pricing software like Wheelhouse, how to connect it all to your PMS, how to make sure that you're doing proper price distribution, because your pricing model for Airbnb should look different than your pricing model for VRBO. This stuff is a big deal. If you're making nearly 7 figures, like almost $100,000 a month on Airbnb, send me a DM to my Instagram, Airbnb Automated. We can talk about what your current needs are, what your growth pains are, because as I build this mastermind and build the special content inside of it, I do need to know what's hurting you most as a big operator. I really appreciate all the time you give me on this channel. Thank you so much for watching this video. And as always, I'll see you on the other side.